Moving on to the West Coast Eagles, who currently sit second on the ladder, which I don't think many people would have thought coming into the season. They are 5-1, sit behind the victorious Richmond Football Club, which we're not discussing.
On percentage.
We're not discussing that after last week's loss. We're going to leave that alone. But I think not many people expected this, as we said, and it's impressive. But they haven't exactly versed the world's greatest opposition. I mean, the loss to the Swans in the first round, yes, they did beat Geelong, but it was at their Optus Stadium. They beat the Bulldogs at Etihad, the Suns again at Optus Stadium, and then they did beat Carlton at the MCG, which has been their hoodoo in terms of the MCG hoodoo. And then, of course, it was probably the game of the round, the Derby, depending on where you live in Australia, where they beat the Dockers by 8 points in front of 56,000 at what is becoming one of the best grounds in the country. Are you buying what the Eagles are selling?
Well, they're smart with what they did because at the start of the season, they took all the pressure off themselves by saying that they were in a rebuild. Yeah. But when you've got Nick Natanui in your ruck and you've got Josh Kennedy up forward, you've got Mitch McGovern down back. Jeremy, sorry. you're not really rebuilding. No. You've still got the players there. Yeah, they have all their 5 wins have come against teams outside the top 8, but you can only play who you've got next. They can't go and say it's not their fault that those teams aren't in the top 8 at this moment in time. So, and how they've done it, it's been great how they've been doing it. They've got those new young players that are
especially in the forward line.
Willie Rioli, I'm not sure the other players.
Daniel Venables, Jake Waterman, Liam Ryan. Unfortunately, Ryan and Venables are both long-term injuries, but especially Liam Ryan, when he was playing, he has X-Factor excitement
and
written all over.
And then you've got Dom Sheed, who's growing into his body and playing better. And I think they've done a great job so far.
Yep. Luke Shuey's really, we said pre-season that he had a chance to stamp himself as their number one midfielder with obviously Prudis and Mitchell no longer being there. He seems to have done that. He's second in the league in inside 50s,
the most likely,
24 touches.
Most likely to do what Richmond did last year.
Yeah.
And win the premiership. That out of all those teams that were
That's a big call.
The lower 8 or out of finals, I think they're the ones that could do it.
Yep, and obviously Gaff's still Gaff. Jack Darley and Mark Lacroix, we have potted them quite a bit. They deserve some credit because if we're going to pot people when they're down, they deserve credit when they're up. Darling's kicked 15 goals through the first 6 rounds, and Lacroix's kicked 14, and that was without Josh Kennedy for the first 3. So they've carried that forward line with those young, exciting players, as we said. Josh Kennedy returning round 4, and Jed's pick for the Coleman has started off hot. He's kicked 9 goals in his first 3 games. Still got a little bit to go to catch the big Benny Brown, the Spirit of Tasmania, and Buddy. But it'll help if Buddy keeps missing. But he's playing really well. He passed Peter Sumich and is now the West Coast Eagles' all-time leading scorer, which begs the question, Brownie, with hindsight, would you have held on to Kennedy, or would you have... If you had to do it all again, would you take Judd?
This question comes up all the time.
Carlton could use a forward.
Yes, well...
Spare 500 goals.
This has been an issue with Carlton for a long time with needing a forward since Fev's gone. In hindsight, I still would have gone with Judd. He just brought members, and even though we're down at the moment, he just brought...
Would you have traded?
He was their market player,
marketing.
And he carried us during those years he was there.
Would you have traded for Vola instead of Josh Kennedy?
The Fevolution.
If I knew what was going to happen, yes.
Hindsight is a wonderful thing, unfortunately.
If I knew, then yes. But if you told me back then, it would have been a definite no.
I'm pretty sure they wanted Favola at that time, and Carlton didn't want to offer Favola.
The other thing with the Eagles as well is they have tweaked their game style a little bit. They're averaging 40 less handballs, 20 more kicks, so they've changed the way they're taking the game on, and so far it's working. I mean, only Richmond and the Eagles have cracked the 600 points mark through 6 rounds, so the only 2 teams averaging over 100 points. So far, very impressive. Their next 5 include Port Adelaide, that's a big game, GWS, Richmond, I think that one is at Optus, the Hawks and the Saints, especially Port, GWS, Tigers, Hawthorn. There's your litmus test.
Richmond Show us what you got. Massive. It's going to be at Optus Stadium as well.
Yep.
Richmond play well in Western Australia, but...
haven't played at the new venue.
That's right.
It's just been a lot of... Even Marston, we talked about how he was struggling. Could he keep his spot? He seems to have cemented it back. Redden was great on the weekend. We talked about Sheed. Very positive signs. I do want to see it against these top-tier teams, which we are going to see, and through round 10-ish, we should know just where they really sit. But the two Western Australian teams are not doing too badly considering everything they got going with their new stadium and their form.